All right. Are we here?
Hey guys. Yeah, looks
Are
like
we
it.
live?
We are
I
live.
can't tell if it's the streaming or if it's my internet, but it's a little glitchy. It was a
Oh
minute
yeah.
ago, at least.
Yeah.
It was kind of sketching out on the intro. But good evening. Good
Hey.
evening. Welcome to the live stream, Building Wealth and Health. This is actually episode 7, Dr. Matt.
No kidding. Well, good
Yeah.
for us. Good for us. 7 of
Isn't
them.
that kind of number 7? Well, I mean, 7
Yeah.
weeks going strong.
Yeah. Nice.
That's good.
That's
a good thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very much. Very much.
I enjoy chatting with Dr. Matt. So I have to say, I think I've learned something new from you every week.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Which is not surprising, but kind of interesting because we talk a lot outside of this, obviously, anyway. And I've known you for quite a long time. So
good point.
You got more stuff to give me, I guess. I don't know. So I'm looking forward to more tonight for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully everybody else gets some good info.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal here, right? Trying to help people have some new info, have some actionable info.
Yep. No, and receive in return.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't remember. It's close.
or something.
Or something like that. Well, I'm hoping to share a little bit of knowledge on my end this evening as well.
Sweet.
I'm definitely looking forward to getting back into the topics we had last week on the history of central banking and monetary policy and what is money? What it actually is money. I did have some money sitting around, but I think it got moved. Oh well. Prop, that's gone. So oh well.
One of your kids stole it.
Probably. It was $50 too. So
hey, where's that new? Is that a new Lego set?
Yeah. How'd you get that? Huh.
Where'd
Interesting.
that come from?
Yeah. It's all counterfeit around here anymore, so it doesn't really matter. I'll just print some more. Just print some more money. Anyway. Yeah, it's just all paper. It's just a receipt, remember?
That's right. That's all it is.
Just a receipt. So I just can't go back and get my gold. That's the only problem.
Right.
I lost the receipt for that one.
Bummer, dude.
Yeah. What's yours is yours, right?
There you go. That's true. It's true.
All right. So speaking of money and what to do with it and how to make it work for you, I am going to talk a little bit about what a Roth IRA is tonight.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. It's another investment tool that you can use to make your money work for you. It's a really cool investment tool. Good evening, Wolf. How are you, man? Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Wolf. Welcome. Welcome.
We're just jumping into some Roth IRA discussion. I'm going to kind of explain what those are and how you can start one and why you should start one. And my wife's also texting me about drinks, so she's clearly not listening. You always hide the money. That's kind of the problem. Maybe you don't know where all my money is, though. Right on, Wolf. You got a Roth. Good for you, buddy. Good for you. Just keep throwing money at that thing until you can't anymore. And yeah, we'll talk about all that stuff as far as like how to start one, how much you can put in, when you can't put any more money in, all that stuff. And if you get to the point where you can't contribute to your Roth anymore, you're doing pretty well.
You
guys are doing well. Yep, you're doing well. It's a good sign. At that point, obviously, you can diversify and do other things. I mean, get married and have a spousal Roth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, max it when you can, dude. It's super important. We talk about that all the time. Just you got extra cash laying around. Don't just go piss it away on something. Use those gold receipts and make it work for you, right? Receipts. It's all about the receipts. All right, so I got some notes I'm going to put up here. But basically what a Roth IRA is just an individual retirement account. It's another, like I said, another tool you can use to make your money work for you. established in 1997, which I actually didn't know because I was looking at some kind of typing some stuff together. I feel like, it's not a bad idea, Wolf. Make it work for you. It's okay. I actually know people that have seriously done that, so we won't talk about them. But 97 was interesting. I thought it was around longer than that, and I know that's a long time for some people, but 97 was a good year, actually, Dr. Matt. 97 was a good year. But yeah, so it's been around longer than I thought, which is actually pretty cool. That explains why one of mine has so much money in it. Because I started contributing to my first one. My dad helped me start it when I was in college. So not long after that, actually, when I was in college, he helped me start that. So when I graduated, I kind of took responsibility of it and started putting money in it. And it has done well. I have actually opened one for my wife, and we've used some other investments too. But the purpose of the Roth is it was supposedly started to help the middle income, especially, just like a more aggressive way to grow money, right? It's not a 401k. It's not a savings account. They're not bonds. You can get as aggressive as you want with these things, and you can actually use them as, if you want to be an active trader and move those funds, but you move those stocks and ETFs and whatever else you're invested in within the Roth around, you can, or you can literally set it up where it's set up by a brokerage and they take care of it, and you can be more growth, less aggressive.
Right.
But, you can pick your poison. There's lots of flexibility with these things. And the best part about it is when you withdraw your money, it's tax-free.
Yeah.
You're not going to get dinged for income tax if you withdraw it. And we'll talk in a minute about when, what the stipulations are behind when you can withdraw money, how you can withdraw it, what's taxed, what's not, blah, blah, blah. But the cool thing about that is it's going in as income. So it's going in already taxed. So obviously that's the whole purpose behind it, is when you withdraw money and it's set up to be a retirement. So there's benefits behind the older you are before you pull it out, the better. But it's tax-free when it comes out because you've already been taxed on the money you put in, because the only money you can put in has to be income. It has to be cash is how they deem it, basically. So like I talked about, they're all, future withdrawals are all tax-free.
And it's important, probably, and you could probably speak more on this, but there's multiple types of IRA or IRAs that are out there, right? So that's distinct about the Roth. Is this tax-free when you withdraw
the Roth is specifically made for tax-free withdrawals. So that's why they distinguish what money can be made, which is cash, which means it's assumed to be income. Traditional IRAs are a little bit different. Yes, Wolf, we will actually get into that towards the end of this discussion as far as using Roths for real estate. It's actually another tool you can use. Certainly can use it as a down payment, but we will discuss kind of another way you can use that Roth to actually invest in real estate and the stipulations behind that, how it has to be set up, what type, so forth. Whoa, thought that was on silent. Like I said at the very beginning, the only thing you have to kind of pay attention to, and at this point, it's a good problem to have, is you're going to get maxed out on income to contribute to your Roth at a certain point. So you can't make too much money and contribute. Now, once it's set up, that's what I'm saying. The younger you are, like Wolf, the better it is to set them up, because as you start getting older, you assume you make more money. There's a cap on when you can actually contribute. So you want to get as much money in there before you become wealthy as possible, because you won't be allowed to contribute after that unless you marry, as Wolf says, a chick that makes less than 30K, and then you do a spousal IRA. But that's not something I'm advising for. So you can start all over. Almost any brokerage is gonna offer these. Just like I said, TD, Charles Schwab, all the ones that anybody uses for trading, for investment, for stock purchases, all that stuff. Almost every single one of them will also have that availability on a Roth. And like I said, you can set it up as aggressively as you want. But you have to make those contributions in cash, which is including writing a check to your brokerage or whoever. They can't be in the form of stock, securities, or other assets, meaning you can't actually apply your ETF or your treasuries into that. Weirdest sugar daddy flex of all time. You'd be surprised. I got stories for you, Wolf. Yeah, so you can't use stocks, bonds, ETFs, CDs. None of that stuff is actually eligible for a contribution to the Roth. Now, technically, you could cash out of those, right? Then you got to pay the income tax or the capital gains tax on that, and then you contribute. So I don't really advise it, for that because it doesn't make sense a lot of times based on taxes. But if you want to move money over, you're taking you took your AMC holdings and you took your profit on that, and you could go ahead and cash it out and do that. But remember, you're paying your 20%, or hurry, or you're going to be paying more, obviously, at some point pretty soon. You can set up on risk tolerance, like I said. So the only other thing that I would say about being careful with these is, there's FDIC policies are a little bit different for Roths as opposed to just like bank accounts and so forth. There is insurance on them, but there is some kind of wiggles on the actual insurance itself. So you kind of have to pay attention to that. As far as, what eligibility and what insurance clauses are in there. Basically, and I'm going to pull this number because I know it just changed fairly recency. As far as the insurance goes itself, I think it's up to, on FDIC, it's up to $200,000 value like it would be at a bank. But basically an example, like what I'm trying to, kind of get across is like, I think it's, $250. Here it is. So FDIC still offers insurance protection up to $250,000 for traditionals and Roths, but account balances are combined together. So if you have several different setups in there, they're going to combine all of those. It's not, $250 per account. It's $250 overall. So example would be, you've got a CD or a certificate of deposit, held in your traditional Roth. And then let's just say it's got a value of like 200 grand. And then you've also got a Roth held in a savings with a value of 100 in the same institution. So under the FDIC insurance, that account holder is going to be exposed on 50 grand. So if you got a $300,000 asset hold, $50,000 of that is going to be exposed or uninsured if something crazy was to run on the banks, right? Yeah. That 50 grand could just literally be like, well, sorry, it's gone. If something crazy happens, not very likely, but just something to keep in mind when you're doing these. If you're like building a bunch of them, like, Wolf goes and starts 4 different accounts for his wife making less than 30 grand. They're going to combine all those together. So if you've got a bunch in there, you'll have exposure on the overage of that 250. Also a great problem to have. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
What is what's the max that, like, say a little more about the income level and contribution and stuff like that.
Great question. I can't read. Yeah. That's okay. So so contribution wise, so we'll go back to how much money you can make. As of tax year 2021, the limit for singles, so someone like Dr. Matt, would be $140,000 of reported income. Okay. If you make more than that, you are no longer eligible to qualify to contribute to your Roth. Okay. For married couples jointly, the limit is $208,000. So for married couples, it gets a little tight right now, especially if, your wife is your sugar mama, be careful. So it's good that Wolf is going to marry someone that makes 30K. Marry a teacher, I guess. There you go. So if you're within those thresholds, you can contribute up to $6,000 a year, and that's the tax year. Right. That's not the year. That's not the calendar. That's the tax year. So this year, we got our federal filing to be extended to, what was it, like May 17th, based on continued Corona pandemic. What did the guy at the King Super say? COVID-geddon is what he called it.
COVID-geddon.
Yeah. So because of COVID-geddon, they extended to May 17th. So you could contribute up to a max of $6,000 by May 17th of this year. Okay. Which I ended up doing that. I actually was kind of slipping, and I've got a great financial advisor that's literally, he's a good dude. He's a good friend of mine, but he called me up. He's like, are we doing the max this year or what? And so I maxed out Katrina's and mine. But it was getting kind of close. I'm like, oh, it's like April 12th. He's like, well, it's okay. You have till May 17th. but sooner the better. I'm like, let's just do it now. But you had up until May 17th of this year to contribute $6,000. Now at age 50, once you turn 50, so Phil Mickelson can now put up to, he can't actually, $7,000 a year. Once you hit 50, you can contribute to $7,000 every year, as long as you're making less than those thresholds of 140 for a single person or 208. If you're doing everything right at 50 years old, you probably maxed out your Roth IRA, which is okay because it'll continue to grow for you. And I would even advise at that point to, at 50, you're still pretty young in the investment world. Assuming you're, as Dr. Matt preaches all the time, you're keeping in good health, you're going to live for a long time. So you could stay a little bit, you can stay more aggressive, I think, than a lot of people do. 50 sounds old to someone that's 25. I remember when I was 25, it was like, oh my God. That's like, dude, you'll be in a wheelchair, retired, be lucky to be able to hit a golf ball. It's not the case. You stay young as long as you can. But that's the benefit of, turning that half century, is you can contribute $7,000 a year until you're over those thresholds. So those are kind of like your contributions. It does change. And I know the contribution amount has gone up since I started mine even. At one point, I think it was like $2,500 or $3,000. It was not very much, and that was pretty early on. Yeah. So now we're up to $6,000 a year.
So if you never make more than $140,000 as a single person, you can just keep contributing.
You can contribute into perpetuity, and you can actually, if you set up your Roth to have beneficiaries or even custodial accounts can allow someone else to write on that, then in theory that thing could be transferred. So it could go into perpetuity to whoever takes over ownership of that Roth until they make more than those thresholds, right?
Just could keep putting that in.
You could keep building that thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the breakdown on what money you can put in there, cash. And then how much you can put in per year, $6,000 until you're 50, then $7,000 a year until you hit, your thresholds of 140 or 208. Like I said, ineligible funds, you can't use rental income, which is another one that's kind of iffy that people don't know about. But you can't take a rental property income and put it directly into your Roth IRA. Any profits from like property maintenance on those properties, anything that's rental investment property from real estate, you can't contribute directly to the Roth. Interest income. So anything you're gaining on your savings account, CDs, bonds, mortgage, if you're loaning out money, any of that stuff, you can't contribute that directly to your Roth. Pensions, annuity income, none of that can be contributed. And then stock, like even dividends. People are like, well, what if I just take my stock and you can't transfer stock, but if you're not doing a reinvest on your dividend, it becomes cash into your account. If that's labeled directly into the Roth, it's non-qualified. So you can't do that. And anything that you get capital gains on. Just click for me why these old heads go out and gamble their Roth on day trading. Only way they can keep growing.
For sure.
And at that point, they're clearly making more than the threshold. So that's, we'll call it swing trading. I actually know some people that do that, Wolf. I won't go much more in depth on that, but yes, they swing trade to do that. And they're not even old heads. They're pretty young dudes, but they make a lot of money. So they have a spousal account they do that into. But hey, if there's a legal loophole, go for it, right?
Play the game.
Play the game. Everybody else is playing it, so you can either play it or sit on the bench.
Exactly.
It's up to you. I was going to talk briefly about the 5-year rule on Roths, which is something to think about because I had someone literally ask me the other day if they should withdraw some money from their Roth to go buy, as Wolf was saying too, but go buy real estate. There was something else they were trying to go buy too. I think it may have been a vehicle. And I'm like, oh my God, just don't do that. You're trying to grow something. Why would you go buy it? If you don't have the money for the car, then get a loan. But don't pull money out you contributed. But there's the stipulation behind the 5-year rule on Roths is basically if you want to withdraw money at any given time you can, tax-free with no penalty. The stipulation there is that you have to make sure that, they will tell you, any money that you've contributed into the account, you can withdraw tax-free and without penalty. Any growth on that account or any annuity growth on that account in the first 5 years will be penalized if you withdraw it. So basically, any growth that occurred in the account that wasn't just contributed cash will get penalized. After that 5 years, it's deemed to be tax-free on any earnings that you have.
Gotcha.
For one of two ways. So like right up here, I put down that, on or after the date you turn 59 and a half, you can withdraw all of it if you want at that point, and it's penalty-free, tax-free. Or the 5-year rule applies tax year 5 years after the first contribution to any of your Roths that you own. And then I did actually grab this because I forgot about this, a note on multiple account owners. The 5-year clock starts with your first contribution, because that was another question I was asked to any Roth IRA. So it's not necessarily the one you're withdrawing funds from, but it's the one that satisfies that 5-year requirement once you're done. And so any subsequent Roth IRA is considered held for 5 years. Rollovers from a Roth to another do not reset that 5-year clock. So if you roll funds into another, your 5 years doesn't start over; it continues on, which is actually a good thing to have.
Right.
The IRS considers your oldest contribution as starts from there. So if you went you didn't max out until year 4. The oldest one is going to be looked at first, and then in subsequent, how much you're withdrawing, they'll look at that up to whenever it's you've hit your asset return. So just keep that in mind. You really shouldn't be pulling anything out in the first 5 years anyway. But sometimes, let's say in the first 5 years, technically your max would be $30K, right? Because you can't contribute more than $6,000 a year unless you're over 50. So at that point, it would be $35,000. So that's contributed money. You can pull all of that out to go use for a down payment on a house or real estate or anything else. You can do that, but that's something to think about when you're looking at, even if you're going to move money to another investment. Just kind of keep that in mind for sure. That 5-year rule they're sticky, but you can find out from your brokerage, how much it is, because sometimes it's hard to read those statements. You want to know where you're at on that, but keep track of your contributions.
Are those penalties pretty steep to take it out early?
Penalty is 10%.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it's pretty, it's limiting your hand basically. It's a pretty big slap on the wrist if you do it. But again, you really shouldn't be thinking about in the first 5, unless it's something like, hey, I want to go buy a house and I got a great deal, but I need another 30 for the down payment, whatever it is. That's just literally cash. You can pull it out.
Yeah.
Now you have, hopefully in the first 5 years, it's going to be, have some sort of annuity growth. So it's growing in there. So let's just say it's even done, 5% a year.
Yeah.
You've got money in there. So
is how much it grows. That's kind of like your own risk tolerance, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and again, you can be as active as you want in that thing. If you want to literally, be an active, I'm not gonna call them day trader, but an active portfolio manager, you can go in there moving stocks around all the time and buy this, sell that, and it can be as aggressive as you want. I don't think a Roth is necessarily the way to go with some of that, but you can be as aggressive as you want with it. I mean, if you're going to be doing that, just set up a brokerage account and put some extra money in that and get on Thinkorswim and start trading. A Roth is really kind of especially the younger you are, the more aggressive you want to set it up for sure, but have someone else deal with that and set up stipulations. You can tell them, you can kind of, you can set borders and curbs as to where you want them to reach into what markets, but just kind of, be active with it for sure, but you don't need to be the one in there moving stuff around.
Right.
What else was I going to talk about here? We talked about income range categories, filing separately, single head of household, all that stuff is pretty, you can go to Investopedia and kind of pull through that. We talked about spousal accounts for Wolf. Withdrawals, you talked about that 5-year rule. There are some other non-qualified distributions you can do on withdrawals that will not ding you on the 10%, but those are pretty weird. If there's like a big medical bill, you need to pay for, let's just say you had a kid and you have extra bills to pay there. There's actually a childbirth or adoption expense that's non-qualified too. We talked about that 5-year. All right, so let's go through, like, I guess I was so efficient with that. I felt like I was going to have something else in there. Let's talk about the real estate real quick, and what you can use, like what type of account you can use to buy real estate through a Roth. The trick with the Roths on the real estate side is it's got to be a custodian account. Okay. And a custodian account is basically it's an institution, a financial institution that's going to be in charge of that account. And the reason being, they're going to kind of they're the rule holders to make sure you don't get outside those curbs when you use this account to go in and buy real estate. You cannot use a Roth IRA account to go buy a primary residence, though. It has to be strictly for investment purposes. So you can't live there. It can't be your primary residence. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to basically use a Roth to purchase it. And we'll talk about what that really means here in a second. But if you're going to use that Roth to purchase it, it has to be an investment income, an income property. It cannot be your primary residence. And again, it has to be a custodial account, which means you have to have some sort of financial institution in charge of it. Okay. What was that guy's name? I can't remember.
That was Mr. Mackey.
Mr.
Mackey.
Mackey, yeah.
Yeah.
I was aggressively funding my Roth thinking I can get better than savings rate, but still pull it out for down payment. Well, that for sure you will do. But as far as down payment, yeah, I thought it was the first house was fair game. It's only because it has to be an investment property. Now, again, you can pull out any contributions you made, Wolf, tax-free and penalty-free. So if you've been throwing a bunch of money at it, that's fine. And especially with that 5-year rule, I don't know how long you've had one, but you're not going to get dinged unless you start pulling out. And I'm assuming that's why you're asking this, unless you start pulling out the growth that you have on the account itself. So the asset-bearing money is going to be penalized outside of that 5-year window. So keep that in mind. It also, otherwise you can, but you could take that money and roll it into a custodial Roth. And that may be the play for you if you want to do it that way. But here are the things to kind of think about when you do this type of Roth for an investment property. It literally is going to be the holder of real estate. So the Roth itself is the owner of the property. It's not you. It has to be titled a certain way. Like it'll be, XYZ custodial IRA account is on title, not Wolf, the financial genius, right? It's got to be titled in the IRA's account. Okay. So that IRA owns your property.
Interesting.
Again, it's got to be strictly for investment purposes. You and your family members can't own it. You're not going to be on title. The Roth has to be used. It's basically you're using the Roth to pay cash, and all the ownership expenses have to be paid by the IRA. So some of the maintenance anything that's expensed on that real estate once you buy it has to go through the custodial Roth IRA. So you have to write checks off, or their checks will be written off of that account to pay for a new appliance, a new roof, so forth. It's got to go through the account. You can't pay for it directly through a different account. Again, because the Roth is owning that property. Well, I didn't tell you. Did I tell you that it has to be self-directed? No, I didn't probably. So it's got to be a self-directed custodial, which is kind of the offering there. That's kind of the same thing. What is and isn't yours? Let's see. So there's going to be disqualified persons that are ineligible on this. So your spouse, your parents, your grandparents, your great-parents, great-grandparents, your children, service providers of the IRA, or any entity that owns more than 50% of the property. Your balance will have to be pretty high because it's getting a mortgage to purchase the property inside an IRA, and that's not easy. Like I said, you've got to pay in cash, but it takes a big bite out of the account. I mean, because real estate's so expensive these days, so kind of something to keep in mind. And it will affect your rate of return on the down the road. Investors will put a small down payment into this and then take advantage of like the low interest rates to leverage the purchase. So if you can't finance your real estate purchase, you're going to lose a significant portion of that ROI. So there are advantages to doing it this way. And obviously most of those are going to come down to tax advantages. Mm-hmm. If you've got one set up, it's got a bunch of money in it. It's something to think about. But as far as like in this environment of real estate right now, ease of purchase, I'm not necessarily leaning towards that because there's more paperwork. There's less wiggle room as far as, what you're going to use it for investment wise. There's an extra step in order to pay for expenses, upgrades, improvements, so forth. There's an extra step there, but it is cash. It's pretty easily liquid. But I don't know. It's one that's been come up a few times. I know Wolf just asked about tonight, but I don't know if right now in this real estate environment that it's the best way to go. I think if you've got multiple properties already, this is a good alternative. But if you're getting into your first or second investment, I would certainly steer away from this and just do it traditionally. Mm-hmm. Keep building that Roth that you have, and down the road, you can take another look at doing custodial self-directed account. And there are some benefits outside of, having to set up another LLC or protect yourself against somebody else. Right. One person I know that has done this was a guy that made a good amount of money, and he had probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 real estate properties at this time. And he was going through a really rough divorce. And no, it wasn't my dad. And this was a really easy way to completely separate himself from any asset. I'll call it asset laundering or lingering. So she was basically trying to grab everything he had. And he did this knowing it was coming. And like I said, it's not him that owns the property, it's the IRA. And it's a self-directed custodial account, which means the institution's in charge of everything that comes in and out of there, right? So right. It's technically he's making money on it, and it goes back into his Roth. Like the income goes into his Roth, and then obviously that income will accrue and build more. So it's, you can leverage the money you're making on your leverage, which is an asset. But you're not directly involved in it. It's like having it as an S corp. So, just don't get divorced and you don't have to worry about this shit. Right.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
It's why it's still is. I'm sure it's still 50% in this country. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's we're human beings. Life is life, and we all have either directly or indirectly seen it or witnessed it or been part of it.
Yep.
I won't speak for my father, but he's done it a few times. So just keep that in mind. And if you feel like you're not the best judgment of character, like my dad, then you would be benefiting. I think even, well, let's start with that. Yeah. Let's start with just, you don't need to get married in the first place if you think you're not set, or you're not cut from that cloth. Yeah.
Right.
But if you feel like you have to, or you're just gonna it's like I can't say no to the chocolate, I can't say no to marriage, then maybe start putting a few properties under your custodial Roth.
Yeah.
And that way he or she can't dig in there very easily. In fact, those lawyers will look at that and go, son of a bitch. Yeah. Well, we're gonna move that off the table.
Right.
I mean, I guess I can just talk myself into the best reason for doing that. That's it right there. You're not the best judge of character, and you're married, and you feel like it's not going to work out. Just go start a custodial Roth self-directed account. Buy some properties with. Now, here's the trick. Make sure you got to somehow, because if there's a good lawyer there, he may be able to pull out some stipulations into where the money was used to fund the Roth initially. So just be really good with your paperwork on how that money gets in there. I don't know if you've got if this point, if you're still considering this, you probably hopefully have a prenup as well, because you know that you're not.
Isn't that what prenups for? Like where?
Oh, the most rock solid ones can still be chipped away. Yeah. And the thing is, the prenup could be rock solid, but you could go through 2 years of proceedings and burn through a bunch of lawyer fees, right?
Absolutely.
You save time by having them see this setup and say, we can't even touch this, so move on, right? So
yeah.
Oh God, Wolf. I feel like I should be an expert in prenups at this point. Not me personally, but friends and family. Friends and family. Anyway, hopefully that answers some of the questions.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's cool.
Yeah, I like Roth a lot. I think it's a great investment tool. Yeah. It's one that mine have done very well. I've been pretty aggressive with mine for, God, 20 years. Has it been 20 years? How's that possible?
I know, right?
Wow. I've been maybe less. Yeah, it's been 20 years. I've been pretty aggressive with mine. I set up my wife's recently, and hers has done really well. I mean, market conditions are dictating some of that because of the way we set hers up. It's fairly aggressive right now. I mean, we're young enough to be able to do that, but I will probably scale back because we have other more aggressive investments that we've, basically built on. So I can now kind of pull hers back a little bit. I'll probably end up scaling mine back a little bit, to kind of diversify a little more and maybe not get as aggressive, just because I've got a little bit of tinfoil sitting in my back pocket that, we're going to kind of just write it out and see. But you can control it any way you want. I love it. It's a great tool. It's done well for us, and take advantage of it until you can't. So
totally.
There you go. That's another way to build some wealth.
There you go. Yeah. And a pretty straightforward one, unless
they're not as complicated as they sound, but
yeah.
Go get a financial advisor. Yeah. That'll probably be my homework. That and Roth, but they'll talk you through it pretty easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thanks.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of building things.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit today. I was thinking today kind of about the importance of a foundation. And I know that, it's pretty fitting, I think, for kind of the topic of our, the whole energy of this live we do every week. But as far as building goes, if you have a house or any sort of building, you have to have a strong foundation to build it upon, or it doesn't last. I mean, we saw that with those old houses in downtown Lafayette and things like that. So, it's important to have that foundation, or it doesn't stand up. So I kind of want to talk about kind of what that looks like from a more health kind of standpoint, at least my kind of thing. So I am biome, 1 to 3 times a day, whatever. I think it kind of depends, just like a teaspoon. So awesome. Yeah. Glad you got that. Let me know how you like it. It can be pretty subtle. So you may not see drastic things right away, but maybe you will. I don't know. Different people have different responses to stuff like that. So, but cool, man. Yeah. I'm glad you got some.
Nice work.
So like, I think it's important when we're talking about health and just like you're building a house, if that there is some sort of strong foundation in place, and to allow other things to work better, right? Like you put the walls up, you put the ceiling on and everything else, or the, the roof and all that, but you have to have that foundation in place first. And I think sometimes with health, I think people go automatically to the more kind of sexy things, if you will, like the kind of the fancier, more like kind of just things that are flashy and kind of are, make the news or make the, papers. But I think some of the real core foundations have to be in place in order for any of the other stuff to work well. And I've just seen that clinically with people that, I could give them a particular remedy, a particular herb, product, whatever it is. And if there's not a good foundation in there, you're limited in how well that's going to work.
Right.
And so, I was kind of just brainstorming some things. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could contribute to a foundation that could be a part of a foundational approach. And I think when I step back and really kind of just want to see like, okay, what kind of things very broadly, like don't want to miss the forest, don't want to miss the forest for the trees kind of a thing.
Yep.
And it has to do, I've actually covered a couple of them already in these last 7 sessions. And, one of the first one I wrote down was basically, I said nature or sunshine. So like being outside and connected to the earth, just having some aspect of interaction with that, whether it's hiking, camping, walking around the park, walking your dog down the neighborhood, even sitting outside, if that's all you can do, something where you're getting out of a concrete building and all the stuff that's not really a part of, us, and get outside into nature. Simple, right? Like, we don't need to make it more complicated, but just the overall benefits of somebody that has that level of connection, I think it really is a pretty key part of a foundation.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, just think about how much better you feel when you get some time outside, right? Like, you just feel better.
I think, and at some point in our lives, what we can like veer away from saying in this last amount of time, the current events have caused blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I know we will at some point. But I think this last year and a half, I think people very recently have realized, because many people, and we know them personally, literally stayed inside for months at a time. Months.
I know, it's funny to me because
killed myself.
Me too. I mean, it's funny to me because I didn't really do that.
Yeah, so, I didn't either, but I know people personally.
But, yeah.
Oh,
definitely. Yeah, it's like, So I think it just shows kind of that health foundation and how important that is. That just something, fresh air, fresh sun, just sunshine.
Yeah.
Just being
standing out in the rain feels good.
Wind, air, rain, snow, whatever, right? Yeah, it's just exposed, just part of it. And the second thing I put was water, and we already covered that, I mean, just some level of connection to that helps, balance, hydration, things like that, so we don't have to talk about that, but I think that's a really important part of a foundation.
Water is good to drink. We're getting the right kind of water, obviously, but it's also good to float in and stand in and feel on your body. And I mean, how much of our body truly is made up of actual water?
Yeah, a lot.
It's a lot. And it craves it for a reason, not just by drinking it, but also experiencing it, feeling it, all of that.
And it goes back, I mean, essentially it's kind of the same conversation as the sun too, right? Like just nature, just being connected to. So simple stuff, right? The third thing I put down was nutrition. And, this obviously we could probably spend hours talking about this, so I don't want to get too much into the weeds with it, but I just feel like, we are what we eat, right? You can't build anything here without what you put in your body. So nutrition is key to health, and that looks different for every person. So I don't think there's one size fits all about that, but I do think that there's significant depletion of quality of food that we have in our world, and that has contributed to a lot of chronic illnesses. So improving on, and maybe that could be a topic, we could do that topic multiple times in multiple ways, because there's all sorts of things to talk about with that. But I would just say, if we're just looking, like I said, not missing the forest for the trees, like seeing that bird's eye view, we're talking about looking at your diet, looking at what's going in, and optimizing that, making it the highest quality you can of whatever it is that you're eating. I'm a big personal believer that, protein and fat are extremely important for people. So if I had to like pick, one thing, that would be where I'd go, and then building around that for people. But it's so individualized, and I don't want to get, too lost in all the details that right now, but making just kind of the point of that being a part of a healthy foundation for health, that you are what you eat. If you put in crappy food, you're going to not really be healthy. It's amazing to me that people are as healthy as they are with what they eat. I mean, I'm not saying they're healthy, but the fact that they can even do functions on some level is sometimes pretty amazing to me, just existing on, soda and candy and whatever people eat all the time. They somewhat function.
I'm amazed. Yeah, they're not functioning optimally, obviously.
Not at all.
But as well as they do function day to day, like I just know, like if I eat kind of crappy for a couple days,
I know, right?
I'm a wreck.
Totally.
I'm an absolute wreck. Or people that don't drink water during the day,
right?
And then they sit down and they have meals, and then they don't have a beverage. Then I don't know how are you. Your body tells you when it's thirsty and it's too late. It's already like you're already starting to dehydrate. If you're like, oh, I'm thirsty, it's you're already like, I'm gonna play catch up. But how do people function that way?
It's remarkable, isn't it? Yeah, people are even able to do different things and heal cuts, and I mean anyway, there's all kinds of aspects to that. But yeah, just really make that something that's part of a foundation, looking at that, what that could be like. And like I said, there's no one size fits all. Is no matter what anyone says, no matter what book comes out, or loud salesperson says, but there are common things that we could maybe get into another time. But I think that's something. The fourth thing I wrote down is movement as a foundation. We've got to move our bodies. We have to be active. That can start with walking, but in my opinion, and Shannon and I talk about this a lot, is the importance of building muscle mass. Doing things like lifting weights, resistance training of some sort. Vital for health.
Later in life, bro. What are you're young. You're fine.
But
you can get away with it when you're in your teens and 20s.
You kind of,
I mean,
you can recover
easier
faster.
than us, for sure.
Recover faster. But yeah, I mean, movement, getting out, moving the body. And I thought of this foundational kind of topic today because I was wearing my. And actually brought him up here because I thought it'd be kind of a cool thing to show. Because I was thinking about movement as a part of that, and I was actually thinking about how important it is to actually like feel the ground and the earth when we're moving. And so that brings up the shoes that I love are these Zero shoes.
Yeah.
I don't know where there's the thing right there, Zero. And so what's cool about these shoes is that they're super flexible, and they are extremely thin on the sole, and there's actually also no raised heel, so it's a flat heel here. And when we're talking about a foundation, not only we're talking about a foundation like of a house, but if we just look physically at our body, our feet are essentially that foundation. That what your body's built on top of is your feet,
right?
And so everything else works its way up, right?
Chuckies.
Actually, those
Chucks
are actually better than a lot of the garbage shoes that they make now, with those really thick pads and those elevated heels. You can't feel the ground at all. I mean, really, you can feel it, but you can't.
It's not the same.
Not the same. Like when you put these on, you feel like every pebble below your feet. It's really cool. And what that does, it stimulates your brain. It stimulates your all the little tiny muscles all up your leg and ankle and knee and hip and back, all the way up your body to stabilize you and keep your body aligned. And, we have all these people with all these chronic injuries. We have all these, like knee injuries, and hip injuries, and a lot of that starts because of that poor foundation for movement. They're pushing off doing things with a weaker area. And so yeah, having a more of a strengthening of that area, more of a balance, a connection there. It's not easy at first when you're used to wearing shoes that give you a lift a little bit.
Hi, what's up, Addie? Thanks for stopping in, buddy. Good to see you. Yeah,
so,
I mean, walking on your toes is not how we walk, right?
Right.
With your heel at this angle.
And people think of high heels on that women wear, but think about the shoes that guys wear. We wear the boots, or we wear the I don't know, just the dress shoes. Even
bro,
high heels,
right? Watching high heels on a woman. I don't even. I mean, maybe I'm probably in the minority. I don't even find it attractive, but it looks so incredibly uncomfortable. Like, why would you torture yourself like that?
Right.
Not only are you like your foot is like this,
I know,
but it's shoved in this little all my toes don't do this. Like that's it looks.
Well, that's the other thing about these shoes is that you could see how wide that is, and that allows your whole foot to extend out and actually start to feel the ground and move the right direction, versus crunched in and then like this pretty much. And I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. So yeah, I mean, again, foundation, right? Like, what are you starting from? What are you building on top of? What are ways that we can improve on that? And if you're going out walking and getting shin splints and knee problems and all kinds of other things. Yeah, me too. It's a sign that your shoes might need help, and that you have weak ankles, weak knees, weak hips. I mean, all these things that need to be built back up. But I will tell you one story about the Zero shoes. So my sister-in-law, Whitney, is she does hair, and she cuts my hair. And
I don't like the aesthetic. I just said that. Listen, woman.
That's funny. But anyway, she cuts hair all day and stands on her feet all day doing that, and she would get a lot of pain in her back and her knees, and she would just get really tired. Actually, she wasn't even always in pain. She was just tired at the end of the day, just like fatigued. And so she got a pair of these Zero shoes, and there's all kinds of styles of them. And Zero is not the only company that does these sorts of shoes. There's multiple ones out there.
I've seen a few, but
yeah, I just happen to like Zero.
You just happen to be sponsored by Zero, so
I wish I was, honestly. Well, they're local too. They're local here in Colorado.
Yeah, which is really cool. They're a Colorado company. Yeah.
But anyway, she got a pair of sandals from them, and she's like, Matt, she's like, I can work all day and I'm not tired.
That's awesome.
Just from a simple like shoe that basically it's not even hardly anything, but it just shows you like what other shoes do, how they
for sure
change our foundation. They change how we experience the world. They change how we move, and that movement throughout the day creates problems. So, building a foundation around movement, healthy movement, but movement in general, I think is super important.
Yeah. And you guys in your 20s, you should go out and get some of these shoes, especially when you're going to the gym and you're running. Anything
it takes a little bit to get used to, but once you do,
I'm sure
it's
do it, because otherwise you end up like me and you'll be a complete wreck. Hips are wrong, shoulders are wrong, blown out knees. I'm not. You want to talk about ways to spend money the wrong way? You'd spend them on knee surgeries and God knows what else.
Totally,
PT. Right. Yeah. They're called Zero shoes, Addie.
XERO.
XERO.
You see that? There we go. And they have a bunch of different styles. I think I have like 6 pairs now. Sandals and these. Yeah.
You got to talk to them about the golf shoe, man. Get a sponsorship.
I actually emailed them about it. Nice. I was like, you guys think about doing a golf shoe? And they're like, not at the moment.
Oh man. It's got to get, anyway. Just takes one guy out there.
Dude, it's literally be the same shoe. Like they don't have to do much. They could just put a little, little studs on the bottom type.
Yeah.
Thing,
very, I mean, it's minimal same anyway.
Shoe.
So
same shoe. I don't know. They could do it if they wanted to. Anyway, I digress. So So, and then the last thing I put down around foundation, and this is just kind of what I've seen clinically and what I really like to do with patients and work with them is I put the word detox down, and detox has a lot of different connotations. I think a lot of times people think detox, they're thinking like drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And that's obviously detox, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about more moving the things out of your body that are coming in that you don't need, that you can't use, that need to be cleared. And I just think that's really foundational to staying healthy, because especially in our world today, we just have so many things that are coming in that are not good for us. Yep. And don't do any good for us, and that could be another topic, that we talk about, all kinds of things around that and what potential problems are from that. And we've covered a little bit of that when we talked about water and stuff like that. But but and there's multiple ways to detox. Honestly, like eating better is a detox. You start helping the body do it because we're always detoxing. Our body's always doing it. So it's not like, but I'm talking about actually supporting it, maybe like enhancing it, like for a short time, just kind of to keep things moving the right way. And
because like Wolf was saying, he was drinking soda like nonstop,
right,
and cutting those things out. And then, just sometimes just cutting those things out, you realize how much better you start feeling. Like your body may, I mean, caffeine's one of those that people, if they're addicted to it or drink it a lot and you cut it out immediately, you start feeling side effects from that, which is hard. But at the same time, you can get direct results from your body being like, okay, it's no longer in my body. This is what I was trying to tell you. Thank you. And you start feeling better instantly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's lots of different ways there's lots of different aspects of detoxification, and, it's actually kind of a focus of my practice and kind of how that works, what that looks like. So it's a little more involved than just, a 2-minute, 3-minute conversation. But I like to think of that in that foundational kind of context, because I think everything else you do for your health is better on that, with that in place, with that functions, when those areas of the body are working optimally or better than they ever were. You just get a lot further. Your body, you can build muscle mass better, you can digest food better, you can, your immune system is better. I mean, all the things that were, in the context of building health, work better.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping in, Addy. Appreciate you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming by.
Sugar, the amount of sugar in soda, bro.
Oh, right.
Through the roof, man. Through the roof.
10 teaspoons of sugar per can.
I feel like we had an experiment at one point where there was like one of those things. You took all the sugar, you looked at how much sugar was in a soda and you dumped it in. You basically just took that in teaspoons and sugar and put it in a glass. Yeah. And then you were just told, just go ahead and eat all that.
Right.
Just go for it. Or just fill it up with water and drink it all. People are like, I'm not doing that. Well, that's what's in this can.
Right.
Like, think about that. If you're doing that, man, it makes me vomit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the gut's the gut, I could have said gut, if I wanted to, on foundation as well. I mean, that could be, the sixth aspect. I kind of was thinking around the whole food and the detox kind of because detoxing is part of what the gut does. Right. So, absolutely. Getting that, that balanced out, ion biome, I think definitely could help with it. Yeah. And sometimes more stuff's needed, but that could be a good place to start for sure.
Yeah.
And so, then you've got, you've got it from there, you've got a good foundation, and you can really build on, right? You can really start engaging in things that are going to actively build your health. But if you don't do those things, and this is the flip side, right? If you don't do those things, you could take all the supplements you want. You could lift all the weights you want. You're probably not going to have the best results from it. Would you get some results? Yeah, probably a little bit. You could throw up a house on no foundation. It'd be there for a little bit.
It's called a manufactured home.
Okay.
Yeah, so think about that. No,
manufactured. Right.
Manufactured is a home that doesn't have a real foundation.
Right.
So it looks like a house. I mean, you can make it feel like a house. There are some benefits. It's certainly less expensive, but it's harder to get a loan.
It's quite an analogy, isn't it?
Well,
yeah.
See,
that's interesting.
And then once you put that foundation, you're good.
Well, and what happens when in those homes when you have something that comes up to upset the home, right? Like I don't know, a tornado or you have really no stability,
right?
And so if we bring that out to like your health, what does that look like when you have some sort of challenge or some sort of stress, like an increased stressful event or something like that? So, yeah, I mean that's your foundation. I think it just helps you build your health there. So how do you know if
nutritionists are certified or licensed, right?
Certified mostly. Yeah, good question. I mean, it's funny. There's different. I'll be honest. I would actually steer clear of most registered dietitians. That would be my advice. They don't know anything. Some do. There are some really good ones, but the vast majority of them are really more in the medical model around hospitals, and you can how much crap is served at hospitals.
Look at the food in hospitals.
Blows me away, right? So it's very calorie driven. I mean, I don't want to bash all our RDs, but most of them are not. If you're really looking for a nutritionist, like someone has a certification in nutrition, masters of nutrition, things like that. It's a really good question. How do you know if they're for real? I don't have a great answer for that. Look at where they went to school, look at where they, who they studied with.
Would it be better just to talk to a naturopathic doctor than a
naturopathic doctor would give you the best of all of it, right? Because we have all that nutrition background plus all the medical background to bring it all together. It depends on where you're located too, how available that is to you. So there's a organization, the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians, is kind of the national organization, and they have a website that has, if you're a member of the organization, then you'll be listed on their website, and you can search by state and like zip code and try to find people close to you. But that's
I would go that route.
You might try that. So Italian beef. Is that Chicago? I don't know. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh yeah, pretty much. You got to go where the biz is, right?
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Follow the good biz.
So anyway, those are kind of the thoughts I had on foundation.
I like it.
And I think there's, obviously a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
With it. So yeah, Chicago, there's actually a naturopathic medical school in Chicago. Well, outside Chicago, the National University of Health Sciences. And so there are potential people to work with around there. I don't know anybody at the moment in that area, but yeah.
I'm sure you could find somebody. And that, again, I would definitely go with an ND over a nutritionist.
Yeah.
You get like Dr. Matt said, you get a more well-rounded education on what you need to be doing. And not just focused on
good nutritionists out there for sure.
Well, we both know some for sure. Yeah.
It's tricky. It can be tricky.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, cool, man.
On it here. Yeah. I don't want to keep people too long.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys hanging in there and listening. And hopefully we got some questions answered and got you thinking. I'll give you my homework.
Oh yeah. Homework.
Homework. I will highly advise anyone that's listening that hasn't chimed in yet, go research Roths. but go start an investment fund of some sort for sure. Again, I would recommend going with a Roth. If you have a traditional, I'd recommend you roll it over, but get something like that started, and get with a financial advisor, because that will help you kind of get guided through types of investments and opportunities within that world too, and how aggressive and how what type of scenario you want to set up depending on your age. They can give pretty good advice. I would go with somebody that's recommended. Ask around in your network to find out who people would recommend first. Don't just go search for somebody, because like everything else, there's really bad ones out there too.
Yeah.
But start that. I'm happy to hear that Wolf has one at his age that's perfect. Just keep chunking that away.
Yep.
And it'll grow so fast that you'll suddenly realize how much money you made, and you won't be able to contribute to it, and that's great. And then you can go marry your teacher and start one for her. So
do it again.
Do it all over again. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, start the research on that. You guys can always drop comments here on the page. You can hit us up on Instagram for just DM us for questions. There's mine. There's Dr. Matt's. We can answer questions there. So yeah, that's
so my homework would be just kind of look at your foundation and look where you can shore it up if you need to, right? Like make it stronger.
Yep.
Do you need to get outside? Do you need to drink better water? Do you need to eat a better diet? Do you need to move?
Yep.
All that kind of
stuff. Getting outside is so important. If you can just find something that draws you outside. I still can't wrap my head around people that don't have that desire. I don't know. They're wired differently, but go. You got to get fresh air, mechanical air. We're sitting inside all the time. It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good. I even have a deck outside my office. I literally take phone calls out there half the time when the weather's good.
Yeah,
I just have to. I get cooped up a lot too, and spending a lot more time in an office than I was before. So it is what it is, but it's easy to do. But yeah, absolutely. Sunshine, fresh air, start building that foundation. Or if it's a little bit cracked, it's okay. You can fix them. You can definitely
back up.
Yep.
Got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere for sure.
No.
For sure. Oh, there she is. Yes, ma'am. Sounds good to me. It's actually pleasant out. I think what does the temp say? 80 degrees.
We're having a nice stretch here for this.
Oh man, we could just stay like this all summer. It'd be great.
Actually good. Kind of the old way, right? The old monsoon flow and not 100 degrees anyway.
It's hanging in the low 80s, high 70s. I'll take it every day.
Perfect.
I love it. That being said, don't forget Amor Fati, Memento Mori.
That's right.
If you guys don't know what that is, go look it up. But that should be a daily thing you have to think about, especially on days when you're struggling. Yeah. So, Absolutely. But thank you for stopping in. Thank you, Dr. Matt.
Yeah, man.
Number 7 in the books. It's pretty good. Let's keep it going.
Awesome. Let's do it. Thanks, everybody.
You guys keep timing in, and if you haven't, hit the thumbs up for us on the way out. Again, you can leave comments and go check us out on all those things that you saw flashing across the screen. Live every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Dr. Matt, it's good to see you. I will see you soon. Go get some food. Build your foundation.
That's right.
We're out.
See you guys.